All right, folks, welcome to episode 5 of the Nervous Men podcast. We're totally not recording this on the same day as episode 4. We all just wear the same shirts all the time. But we want to do an episode about ghosts. Isn't that so, Jonesy?
That's right.
All right, so let's just get into it. I don't have that many ghost stories to tell, but Jones has a ghost story for us.
Let her
I
rip.
do.
No, he doesn't. Richard, do you have any ghost experience? I'm pretty sure Jones doesn't have a whole lot of like paranormal experiences, huh?
I really don't. I just have that little clown thing that I can get into later. But
No, that's
Oh God.
well. Let's start this off by clarifying some stuff. Do any of us here actually believe in ghosts, or if not
No.
ghosts, just supernatural stuff?
I don't believe in ghosts, no.
Nothing paranormal at all.
Yeah, I guess paranormal, but not like ghosts being around. I believe in spirit. I do think that people have a soul, but I don't believe in ghosts. I don't believe like ghosts walk around in people's houses and move things and wow, that thing fell off the shelf and I don't know. I just don't I don't believe in any of that.
Interesting. Jones.
yeah, I don't really either. I just love hearing stories though. Not to ridicule people or anything. It's just I love hearing what experiences people have had because there's a lot of unexplained mysteries out there and mysterious mysteries, and I just want to hear them all.
Chicken foot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't
Chewy
know.
Rodriguez.
I'm not sure. I kind of go back and forth on them. I'm not sold either way, I guess. But Richard, because I've heard Jones's story before. Do you have any unique
Paranormal
experience?
stories, ghost stories? Like whoa,
Yeah.
what kind of stuff we talking
Just
about?
weird stuff you can't explain. Maybe something that could be ghostly.
Nothing that could be ghostly. Stuff that I can't explain would probably be like UFO related, but not
Have you
ghostly.
seen a UFO?
Yeah.
Well, tell me
I thought
about
we
that.
talked about this before. Well, one time it was me and my friend Jason. We were driving home late one night. It was probably maybe like 1 o'clock in the morning or something, and we were driving, and there were these lights up in the sky that were kind of parallel with us in the car as we were driving. They were staying at the exact same pace as the car, and there was no sound whatsoever. You would hear if it was a helicopter, even if it were a plane, like the sound catches up. But there was nothing. There was no sound whatsoever. And the lights would kind of dip down and then go back up really fast. And we rolled down the window. We would like speed up in the car and it would stay level with us all the time. It would stay parallel with us. It was able to slow down if we slowed down. It sped up if we sped up. And it was just this was when I was in high school, so it was before everyone had drones and stuff like that. When did drones get big? I would say drones just got big like within the last 6 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Being able to buy them like in Target and just everyday people being able to have access to that kind of technology. So it certainly wasn't something like that because that didn't exist back then. That wasn't something an everyday person had access to. I'm talking like 2007. So I have no idea what it was, really, completely, really the absolute definition of a UFO, an unidentified object, something that was flying and very close to us, but emitted no sound, really something strange and unexplainable.
You never told me that before. I'd never heard that story before.
Oh, wow.
This is
I
news
think
to
that
me.
may have been a conversation that we had with someone else over a video chat one time, and now my conversations are getting mixed up. But okay. Yeah, so that's mine.
Damn. Jones? I've never seen any kind of like UFO stuff, so I have zero stories related to UFOs.
Yeah, I totally wish I was in that same boat of like having that experience of seeing a UFO or seeing something like, Sasquatch or something,
Hmm.
but mine
Big
isn't even.
Squatch.
Yeah,
Lady
I haven't.
Sasquatch. Start giving me a
Whichever one of the
knobber.
Sasquatch family you want to choose from, that's fine. But
When you see UFO, though, do you think government or do you think aliens?
Oh, that's a good question.
I lean more towards government, some sort of secret tech that we just don't know
If I
about.
had to be absolutely 100% realistic about it and logical, I would have to say government. Because while I do think aliens exist, I think extraterrestrials exist, I don't think that they would just be flying around, that they're just going to be down here within the atmosphere doing stuff all the time. Um, so I would have to say military or government
Hmm.
experimentation with different, you know, devices, different crafts, ships.
Jones?
um, answering your question about government or aliens,
Yeah.
I would also think it's government just because they've probably got a lot of high-tech stuff that, we can't even fathom right now. So I think it's cool though. I like new technology and I like hearing about that stuff, but
That's a
things that
change.
people
I remember back you used to be like really into the UFOs. You thought the opposite.
well, I still want to believe,
Hmm.
right? Just like that classic poster.
Oh, you had to get it in there.
I had to. I want to believe, but it's probably just a result of some crazy technological advancement that we've made. But I also want to believe that there's other beings out there that aren't just human, I don't like the idea of a lonely universe, so there
Hmm.
probably are extraterrestrials out there. They're just too busy or too far away to even be dealing with us.
Are UFOs something that it's kind of like a thing that's Americans are obsessed with?
No.
Cause, or is it something that happens everywhere? Like, can you find
It
someone everywhere
Yeah,
that's going to talk
I
about it?
I'd say you can find that in a lot of different places. I mean, anytime there's any sort of like UFO footage submitted, it's always like somewhere in like Mexico or like the
Hmm.
Philippines or, some European country. It's always far away. The only remotely close thing I've known about are like the Phoenix Lights, but everything else
Hmm.
is always like some crazy far off coast sighting, in some country that is pretty far from here. So
Hmm. I never really got into like UFO stuff, so I don't know why. I was never super interested in aliens or flying saucer type stuff, so I assumed it was just like an American thing, like people from the West Coast with Area 51 and stuff like that. That's who was into it. But I would guess that it's more government related because it kind of it reminds me of like the Manhattan Project, where like
Mhm.
they were developing this super explosive bomb and the average person didn't know about it, but it was being made and it eventually became public. So I feel like UFOs could just be that. But then, but the thing is that like other countries knew about the Manhattan Project. So you would think there'd be like variations. There'd be like a Paris style UFO and like an American style UFO, but there seems to be like a general idea of what a UFO looks like.
Hmm. Well, that's another thing that makes me pretty certain about the existence of extraterrestrial life, because we have this consistent description.
Hmm.
I mean, there were some variations here and there, but for a long time, we've had a long-standing, consistent description of what we think extraterrestrials look like, with the enlarged eyes and all of this
Yeah.
stuff. So that's kind of what makes me lean toward the idea that they have already made contact with us
Hmm.
at some point in history.
Well,
But
yeah, that I
yes, same
guess.
thing with the UFO. With UFOs, we seem to have this definitive concept of what they look like.
Yeah, because like again with like the atomic bombs, like Americans were making one, Nazis were making one,
Mm-hmm.
but they were making different types of bombs. It wasn't like so closely related. The Japanese knew about it but weren't making one. So like I feel like if it was, I don't know. I don't know. It's hard to tell really. But like if they did contact people, like when and why wouldn't there be some like amazing evidence of that event happening?
Because it was pre-internet.
Do you think that's it? Like seriously?
Either pre-internet or some other reason to just not have that information publicly available. If
Like would you
if
be
I'm
able to
playing
hide
devil's
something
advocate,
that massive?
No, there is. Oh man, I wish I could remember what it was called. There is a United States ordinance. I've talked about this with Jones before. I can't remember what it's called. We could just make up a name. Maybe it was called like the Samson ordinance or whatever, but it's an actual document. I'm gonna have to look it up and find out what it's called. Um, I had first heard about it on the Art Bell show and then looked it up and found out it was legitimate and not a conspiracy.
Hmm.
But it is a document stating the United States, in the event that there has ever been or ever will be contact with extraterrestrial life, the United States government has determined that it is in the best interest of the public to not disclose the existence.
Hmm.
So it makes all these stipulations, and it says in the event that extraterrestrial life is discovered, makes contact with us, or already has made contact with us, we will not disclose it to the public because of the damage it could do to infrastructure, to national like security, what it would do to religious beliefs, what it would do to local economy and the overall economy of the nation. It gives all these different stipulations of like why it would cause issues with people and structure as a whole
Hmm.
if that information was disclosed to the public. So it's entirely believable that if they have already made contact, we would not be told. The information would be withheld from us.
I guess in that situation, I feel like it'd have to be like they made contact, but they're dead already. Like they died on arrival or something like that. Because in that situation, like what comes to mind for me is like, why would like some alien race that made it all the way to Earth listen to the U.S. government and say, "Hey, we're not going to tell anyone," and then these super advanced aliens are like, "Oh, okay, okay, U.S. government, I'll go with you and not tell anyone."
Well, I don't think that would happen realistically. I doubt we were even able to communicate with them.
Hmm. So they
it's
could have
just
just
more of
been.
a.
Hmm? Go.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say it could have just been like you didn't talk to them. It's just like, oh, we saw this thing come from.
Yeah,
Or or yes, maybe there was some sort of physical interaction, but again, we couldn't communicate. We do have evidence of them here, whatever, but that would not be made public. We would not disclose it to the American public because of the damage that it could do.
Hmm.
so basically, it's just a confirmation. If we were ever able to say yes for sure, there is alien life, then that's when we make that decision to not make it
When was
public.
that
Then, right?
document made?
I
Did you
think it
say?
was like 1994 or something.
Oh,
I'm gonna have to find it again.
I was just like I was thinking maybe if it was like super far in the past.
No, I don't
Like
think so.
I'm just wondering what would the reaction be from people? Do you think people would just go nuts and be like, I
Yeah.
feel like people want aliens.
No, I think certain religious institutions would kind of go nuts. I think some
Hmm.
people would really get out of control.
Hmm. I don't know. I guess it's just because of my own religious beliefs, where I guess the existence of aliens wouldn't really affect my own religious beliefs.
Yeah,
But
me neither,
uh,
but again, we're not the average person. The average person is not that well-rounded. I
hmm,
mean, look at televangelists on TV. You see like these insane reverend cult leader type of dudes who are in these mega churches with 250,000 people. And you're like, who are these 250,000 people who are buying into this,
yeah,
right? The people exist. And those are the type of people who would not be able to handle the concept. Like for me, aliens wouldn't change anything. But for people who aren't that intelligent or free thinking, they would be like, what does that mean?
yeah.
Like God made aliens? Like they would be freaking out. They just would not be able to comprehend it in the correct way.
Yeah, I guess for me,
Especially,
like being Catholic, like even if aliens appeared tomorrow, I'd be like, all right, I guess God made aliens too. I don't. It wouldn't be like some world-shattering development for me, I guess.
Hmm.
But yeah, I could see how folks would go crazy. What were you gonna say,
well, I
Jess?
mean, I was gonna say just with anything today, any little idea can be exaggerated and taken on to a level where it's going to be heavily debated, and immediately there's always two sides, and it's divisive with the smallest conversation with the smallest idea. So I mean, if something is like a pretty significant milestone in our human history of making first contact with extraterrestrial beings happened, I wouldn't doubt that it would be a divisive moment somehow. I don't think everyone would unanimously be like, alien life, let's accept it. This
Awesome.
is how it's going to be.
Hmm.
Yeah, there'd probably be a
There's,
bunch of people that want to kill him, huh?
well, you're going to have a bunch of conspiracy theorists that think that, there is no such thing as friendly extraterrestrials. And then there's going to be others that like believe that they're going to be like some almighty higher power that should be worshipped. And then there's going to be others that are indifferent. But, those are different cases. But
Hmm.
already I can see those outcomes
Well,
from something like that happening.
going on that, what do you think of like? Do you think they would be friendly, or would they be like us? We're like, oh, we found this new place. Time to kill everyone here and establish ourselves. Or would that have to be assuming that like the aliens have the same sort of moral weaknesses that humans do?
I think reading up on it a while back, I would assume that it would be friendly, given that I actually would believe in this fully. But
Hmm.
just okay, so space is huge, right? To get to the point where you can travel, at light speed, or just have any sort of means of transportation to get from one place to another, you'd really have to make that your priority. But to make that your priority, you'd have to make like pretty much the technology in your planet sustainable and able to, you know, be something that works, right?
Hmm.
Well, I guess what I'm trying to get at is the
It
the way
needs
I've
teamwork.
well, not that it needs teamwork, not just like a basic concept like that, but getting to the point where technology has advanced far enough because the civilization has let it get that far, and they've made it significant advancements such as like harvesting the power of the sun and things like that, and going with like a unanimous sort of technological process that involves like it being for the good of their own people and for the advancement of their own race. So at that point, things like war and I don't know, other very human issues would not be something that really pertains to a race or society that would be so advanced technologically. to the point where they can finally like easily travel in space.
Yeah, that's a big argument on my part when people are talking about technological advances that could be granted by extraterrestrials, or just advancements that could be shown to us or given to us by them. I think that's absurd, because if extraterrestrial beings came to us from somewhere else, there's absolutely no way we would even be able to comprehend what they had to teach us. A being from somewhere else that is capable of interstellar travel, they already have technology that is way beyond us if they're able to do that. And if they are capable of interstellar travel, them trying to teach us anything would be like us trying to teach calculus to an ant. Whatever they have would be completely useless to us. It would be lost on us infinitely.
I heard a theory that I guess applies to this, which is that maybe their technology isn't advanced. Like we would think that, oh, getting from point A to point B in the universe requires some insane technological advancements. But what if this alien race just happened to develop on some planet that has a resource that allows them to travel point A to point B quickly? It's not a super advanced stuff. It's the same way that humans have fossil fuels. So maybe
Oh,
they'd come
okay.
to Earth and then they'd see us using fossil fuels and be like, how the hell are you turning bones into fuel to run your cars? And we'd be saying, how the hell do you use this thing to travel across the universe? But for them, it's
Oh,
like a basic
wow, yeah.
technology like cars are for us.
It's a resource game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I never thought about that.
Yeah, me neither. That's fantastic.
So in that situation, maybe it would be more likely that they try and murder us for our bone fuel, I guess.
Just a bunch of hillbilly aliens coming to Earth.
Well, like if they are more advanced than us, then they would have nothing really to gain from
Yeah.
killing us. But if we're basically on equal terms just with a different resource, then they may want the resource that we have that they don't have. And vice versa, I guess. We would want their space travel fuel, and they would want our fossil fuels, for example.
It's a good
Which
way of
we are
thinking about it.
depleting.
Yeah.
Just to go back to what I was talking about earlier, I did dig up the thing that I was talking about. It's called the Brookings Report, and it was published in 1960.
Yeah, that's...
And that was shortly after Project Blue Book, right? So
Yeah.
that's kind of
So
when they started.
basically,
What's Project Blue Book?
Project Blue Book was, I think it was created by the Air Force in like 1952. Basically, it'd be people from the Air Force going around and surveying people that claimed to have seen a UFO, basically to vet it, to see like what was going on. I mean, this was kind of like around the Cold War and whatnot, so
it was essentially to determine if it was a threat to national security.
right. But they'd go from place to place logging the events and the details, and there were just a lot of UFO claims around that time, so that's why an official project was started out of this. But then, Richard, about the Brookings Report, you know?
Yeah, so the Project Blue Book, it was United States Air Force's official documentation of UFO sightings. But so the Brookings Report, like I was saying, published in 1960, and the report became big because of what I was talking about earlier, the implications of extraterrestrial discovery on society. And it specifically talks about the effects it would have on the public questioning leadership and controversy that could arise from that, the way it would influence infrastructure, the way it would influence local economy, the way it would affect, I guess, religious institution. So yes, if anyone listening wants to look into that more, the Brookings Report. That's what that's called. If you guys want to scope it out later on, look into it. Kind of freaky, kind of cool that they had to actually
I guess that
talk
would
about that.
be like the because one of the things I always hear with like the conspiracy theorists of aliens, I think it was the Reagan's was it Reagan's speech where he talks about how yeah you'd have to double check on that one. I think it was Reagan where he was talking about if there was like an alien presence that appeared that it would basically be useful in like uniting the world against it if we made it like our enemy. Like it would be a way to end sort of global conflicts. Just, a new enemy to unite us against.
That sucks to think of it that way.
But that's kind of,
to immediately that adversarial standpoint instead of, I guess, the curiosity of whether they could be allies.
Yeah, but I mean, it's kind of like even just looking at things now, it's like we constantly need some enemy, so something to unite against. Jones, did you search it up?
I'm looking into it, the speech that he gave.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Like, I've heard it from so many different places that I don't know what the actual speech is. But that's
there's a whole video on it. There's a clip on it on C-SPAN, so.
Ooh, check out C-SPAN, folks.
Yeah.
But yeah, aliens. There's also the people were going nuts over the one in California, right? Where the government released it like officially as unknown object.
How recently was this?
Within like the last month. It's like that video of the fighter jets where they're out on the ocean, and then it shows like the little thing they're trying to speed up to catch it, and the radars aren't fast enough to keep up with it. The jets aren't fast enough to keep up with it.
I've not seen this.
And then it's like, real fighter pilots. It's not kooks or anything. And they're talking about like, oh, we don't know what this is.
But that's when it's really scary, when you have these people who are, I guess, what do you call it? When someone has like a certain
reputable folk.
Yeah, just like just that, a more reputable source. It's not like a dude on his back porch telling you like, I saw it, It's a person where you're thinking like, this person really has no reason to be making up stories and jeopardizing their position. So it's kind of scary when you hear people like that telling stories.
Of course, people. Well, they went both ways with it. I guess they were saying, oh, it's basically the government testing whether or not it's better than the stuff we already have. Some people were, oh, they're Chinese drones. Just, of course, like different explanations as to what they are. Weather balloons, the usual. But supposedly that was big news. Everyone was talking about it. I'm surprised you guys haven't. Well, Jones, I guess, has seen it, but I'm surprised you haven't seen it, Richard.
No, I've not even heard of that.
And this was the Pentagon officially releasing stuff? Yeah, that was towards the end of April. I remember hearing about that. And I think one of the videos actually that they released was one of the videos that Tom DeLonge from Blink-182 talked about or released with his own weird little alien company that he had.
It sucks that dude gets justified though, because all the crap he was sharing that was obviously fake, but one of the million that he was with is real. So now he's like, I told you.
Yeah.
Do your eyes see? Dude, that one. Did you see? I don't know, Richard. I think Jones, you saw the Joe Rogan where he was on there talking about his thing.
I did.
That one hurts the idea that aliens are real so bad. Because he'll share like basically chupacabra level videos of like crappily 3D edited stuff flying through the sky. And he's like, you see that? You see that? You can see the propellers right there. The fusion generators. They're moving it without any explanation.
It's terrible.
And it's like 1990s CGI.
Tom DeLonge makes me lose like any sort of faith in aliens or like the belief in them, but um if without him, I'm cool. I like watching other videos, and I like, even though some of those have come out as like fake and stuff,
Hmm.
it's always been fascinating to me to see even just the concept, even if it's just telling a story. I
One of
really
my
like it.
favorites has got to be the Fresno Nightcrawler. Have you seen that?
I have
No.
not.
It's like security camera footage from someone's front yard, and the Fresno Nightcrawler is essentially just like a pair of pants walking by. It's so
Yes.
great.
Yes.
I love those. And they could easily just be a person that's in like a suit that goes up to their neck and their arms just aren't exposed. But
Yeah.
I love the way they walk, the way they look. It's so funny.
That looks so crappy. Fresno night crawlers. Damn. Dude, I remember in like 8th grade, like the kids in our class were all into that conspiracy stuff, the chupacabras and
That's its
Bigfoots and
own
stuff like that.
subgenre now. It's called cryptids.
Yeah.
Cryptids.
Yeah. I've always liked cryptozoology and stuff like that. It's just interesting because it goes into a lot of like folklore and just history of like different cultures and countries, and
Yeah.
if anything it's just a damn good story or damn good entertainment, but
Hmm.
I will eat all of that up.
Yeah, I think it's way easier to get lost in that stuff because it could just easily be an animal or something else like that
Mm.
that's been twisted into a story or a myth over decades. But it's
Yeah.
still fun stuff. I like it.
There's there's a show that comes on um like with our live TV subscription. It's called like Paranormal Caught on Camera. And it'll show the really crappy stuff like Loch Ness monster level videos where it's a very grainy image and you see something come out of the water for like 2 seconds, and they milk that out into like a 10-minute segment saying like some people believe this was an elephant or maybe a hippopotamus, but if you look at it closer it's got a very long tail, and
Mm.
you know is this monster really sinister? Why has it been living in this lake this whole time? And they get into like some ridiculous like rabbit holes of why this monster or creature would exist and why it's not a known animal that we're so familiar with.
Hmm.
But I still love watching that. It's partly because of some people on the shows that like just are very into it and that's like their life. You could tell, and they're very passionate about it, but it's also really strange to think how into like I don't know, they're really like buying that
Mm.
footage that they're being shown. They're really into it and they truly believe that this is some crazy paranormal one of a kind monster or creature. Um so I love all that stuff.
Like Dib.
Yeah. Yeah, like Dib from Invader Zim. But on a sort of subtopic, um, if you do like reading this sort of stuff, and if you just like different stories, you should definitely check out the SCP Foundation. Um, it's like a wiki type site.
Mm.
The foundation SCP stands for Secure, Contain, Protect,
Mm.
and it's just great. They have all these different either artifacts, objects, monsters, beings, whatever, that each of them have their own story and how they were caught and how they should be, the protocols of how they should be secured in a certain type of confinement cell and things like that. But it's really
Sounds
interesting.
like
There's a
control.
sort of, sort of. It's yeah, but it's great. Like I sometimes just go on the website there and I'll spend like an hour or so reading different stories and different SCP articles.
Mm.
It's all totally fake, but it's a great read for anyone listening. Like, for example, one of them is an IKEA store that for whatever reason, or not an IKEA store, or maybe it was, yeah, that for whatever reason that like people that go in there can't come back out.
Hmm.
Um, and I forget the reason why, but it's essentially like some weird parallel dimension happening inside of the store itself, and people are to like stay away from it, things like that. There's another monster that like always has to be monitored. No one can blink because the moment you blink, it gets closer to you, and if it gets close to you, it can breach containment and immediately kill you. But if it's being stared at,
Dude, that's exactly the Bureau of Control in the game Control. Like the whole
really?
bureau's point is to go around and find what they called like altered artifacts, like things that come in from parallel dimensions and cause issues here. Like it could
Hmm.
be an IKEA that causes people to disappear, but they have in their little containment. I think it's called the Panopticon or something like that. They have a refrigerator that's an altered item that they have to have one of the agents constantly staring at it. Like if you blink while you're staring at the fridge, it'll like kill you or take you into some different dimension or something like that. There's
That's
there's different items where you have to play a certain song to keep it contained, and you have to have that song on repeat. And
that sounds exactly like the SCP stuff. It's just these weird sort of, cryptids or like paranormal things that need some sort of protocol to be contained. Otherwise, they could cause severe danger and damage. And it's great. It's absolutely great. It's
what if that was legit? Because now that makes me think of Richard's document where they're saying, "Oh, we'd hide it to protect the population so that they don't freak out." What if there is like a bureau that, like, if there is a ghost or paranormal activity going on, there is a group of people that goes and they clear it out and they contain it so that nobody knows about it.
I mean,
Possible.
That
yeah,
could
it could
be.
be.
Have you ever seen the Animatrix?
No, that's the only one I haven't seen.
Dang. Okay, so one of the last stories in it is about these kids who go and play in this haunted house.
Hmm.
And in the haunted house, there's all of these weird phenomena that occur. So maybe there's a part of the house where it's raining and it's just raining, like within this 4 foot radius, not anywhere else. There could be a part in the house where um, you open a door and it just goes to absolutely nothing. There could be a part of the house where like there's gravity that's not working properly, so you can
Hmm.
kind of float, or you can throw objects and they won't fall to the ground. Things like that. These weird anomalies,
Hmm.
and the kids just think it's a haunted house. But then all of these agents show up, and it turns out it's a glitch in the Matrix. So they rewrite it and they fix the program, and then the kids go back to it, and the house is back to normal, and they
Hmm.
can't do anything anymore. And it kind of makes me think of that. So, what if there were these things? What if there were these anomalies or odd things that people could not account for? Things that people might refer to as haunted houses, or um, again, just like strange physical anomalies that don't really make any sense. So we call it ghosts, we call it whatever as a way to explain it away. We call it a haunted house, but it turns out it is something else. But then, like you said, there could be an agency that keeps people away from it, tries to clean it up, does something to kind of dissipate the attention that the place gets, whatever. It's a it's kind of a creepy thought, but where do you think that comes from? The idea of haunted houses and the idea of a certain location having almost like inconsistencies or issues that seem paranormal, seem like there's some sort of inhuman
Hmm.
element or this activity that's caused by another being. Like, where do you think that whole idea came from?
That's what I always think about. What is the, because like, there's the whole thing. There's like some truth to all these like little stories,
Hmm.
folk tales. So what is the, was there like some event that was,
I don't know. Or is it as simple as someone's thing fell off a shelf, 100 years ago, like it wasn't balanced properly, or something fell off their spice rack, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, it's a ghost," and then like the stories just get spun, and then it kind of evolved into what we have today. It could be something as simple as that. Who knows?
But that's just too much of a coincidence to be like a global thing where like every single country, area,
Places that aren't connected in any way until recently
yeah,
have
they've all
ghost
got
stories.
yeah, they've all got something about the spirits or the afterlife and, things like that. I don't know. I think that's too strange for there to be such a massive connection or massive similarities.
Well, what about we'll give some examples, and maybe that'll help us, because our own experience with paranormal events could maybe explain how they go around. So, like Jones, your clown story.
Yeah, so this was an event when I was much younger. Um, I don't know, anywhere between 7 to 9 years old. Um, my mom had this china cabinet where she had a little clown doll resting on one of the shelves, and this was, you know, if it's a china cabinet, you're not going in there opening the doors. You're not really messing with any of the contents in there, but it was this very old school looking doll. I mean, I'm probably something from like the 1950s or 1960s. Nothing menacing. You look at the thing, it's just got like shiny, silky clothing and um, white face, smiling, very happy looking, and it had a little rainbow and a sun on its cheek. It was just kind of painted on. Um, One day, I'm just looking at the clown doll and I just noticed that the clown itself is now frowning, and the same cheek where it had this design of a rainbow and a sunny, sort of image, suddenly turned into clouds and rain, right? So not only did the facial expression change, but the design on the face did. So um, I talked to my mom about it, and I said, "Hey, what's going on? It, you know, does this thing have like does this thing change? Have you ever seen it do something different?" She went to go look at it with me, and it was back to normal. It was smiling, and it had, a little rainbow and sun again. But for me personally, the way I explain that is just my child-like imagination. I mean, I was maybe just very imaginative, as most kids are, right? So I could have just been fabricating this sort of mini reality for a second and thinking that this was real. Just like how when you're playing cops and robbers, you imagine the whole scene going down of like you having a giant money bag and all
So
this stuff.
it kind of correlates to our previous episode talking about childhood memories and false memories, and sometimes misremembering something or even creating imagery in our head, and then we perpetuate it over time and think that's the real memory. So do you think that was the case with this? You think it was your imagination, and over time the mental image has just been perpetuated?
I mean, I certainly think it was my imagination at the time when I thought it was frowning. I could have been seeing things, but maybe I was just really thinking that this thing was frowning, even though anyone else staring at that was just a normal looking thing. I don't think there's anything paranormal or sinister behind that doll. I mean, I I'm very limited on these experiences. It's not like I grew up in a crazy house with any other type of experience. That was my only one. So I have to rule it out as it was just my imagination. I mean,
Okay. Well, that's what I
because
was getting at. So you absolutely 100% do not believe that the face physically changed. You believe it was your imagination.
yeah, looking back on that, yeah, I totally do not believe that it actually changed. But
Okay.
of course, as a kid, that's hard to convince a kid something like that. But I don't think it's any different than again, playing a pretend game with one of your friends on the playground or anything, you or like how when you hear a story or you play an old video game where you remember it being much better looking at the time because
Hmm.
you get so immersed in a world where you're like, wow, this is so realistic. And now you look back at it and you're like, how did I even view anything on the screen? I just see like 3 pixels, right?
Yeah.
It's I think it's all the same thing. It's your own imagination that's just it's more of a supplementary thing where it adds on to the experience. So that's that's what I have to say about that.
Hmm. Well, I have two, I guess, my go-to, but I'll use one of them because Jones has heard the irrigation one, but that one's just me. There's the weirder one is when I was about 12 or 13. It was like seventh or eighth grade. It was me, my sister, and one of my cousins. I think my dad was out of town for some conference, and we were staying home and basically taking care of each other, sitting each other, and we got a. I guess my dad's only rule was just don't open the door for anyone unless it's me or one of your uncles or something like that. And so we got a ring at the door, and we didn't open it, but we have these windows next to the front door at my house in Phoenix, and we just kind of looked through the blinds, the three of us, without like letting him know that we were watching. And when we looked out the blinds, it was these three construction workers, three or four, I think it was three construction workers, but they were completely wet. They were like dripping, soaking wet. They had their like yellow vests on, the shiny things, their yellow hard hats, and they were sitting there. The dude in the front, like a fatter, shorter guy, had a clipboard, but soaking wet. It wasn't raining in Phoenix. It never rains in Phoenix. It was a dry day, so there's no reason for them to be soaking, like dripping wet. But they were also extremely pale, and their lips were like purple, as if someone, when you get like, what is it, hypothermia or something, you're in the cold water for too long. They were just sitting there, the three of them standing there, looking at the front door with like the clipboard in their hands, just dripping water. And we didn't open the door, but they rang the doorbell again. We end up just closing the blinds, and then we check back, and they're gone. They're not there. Nothing ever came from that. But that's a situation where there's like three people that see it, and I don't know. There was no rain. I don't know why construction workers were at the house. It was creepy. It was definitely creepy, and it's not a memory that's been twisted. Because if you ask my sister, it's the same story. If you ask her cousin, it's the same story.
What the hell?
So like in that weird situation, we don't know what happened. And then there wasn't any evidence when we looked and they were gone. It's not like there were still puddles of water on the ground in front of the house. It was just nothing. There ain't no water near my house in Phoenix. There's no lake that these dudes could have crawled up out of and then for some reason came to our place.
That's the kind of stuff I love to hear.
Yeah.
Jeez. Man, that's freaky. That's the kind of stuff that will keep me awake. We're gonna have to talk about something funny or happy after we wrap this episode because that's gonna mess me up tonight.
So that's what I mean. There's stuff like that that makes me feel like, I could go either way. I don't know. Maybe there is
And
some.
especially because you have two other people to corroborate that story. That's not one that's easily dismissed.
Yeah.
That's very strange.
See, that goes back to the dream example I mentioned earlier, where, multiple people had like the same nightmare or something, or like the same dream
Hmm.
that like led to some sort of experience. I mean, I think those shared experiences are very powerful. I haven't had any of those, but I've always been looking for a reason to believe. I mean, like even Richard, you and I, when we were in Jerome and we stayed in the Grand Hotel, right? There was that place is supposedly haunted, and I'm just not a believer, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm willing to accept to be open to something if I just happen to be part of it, right? Like, but nothing ever came out of that.
Except we saw that red bulge.
What?
Did you? Or was that something that people made up?
We made that up, remember?
Oh, okay.
Oh,
That was the joke with Benji.
Yeah, okay. Okay, because that's what I was thinking. Because
People, no, remember people would say that they saw like red lights. People would say that there were like glows in their
it,
room, that there were these weird
like a red
illuminations that would
fog.
float. Yeah, things that would like float around. Um, and so we created the red bulge
Yeah, that's what Benji ended up calling it.
as our paranormal experience in the Jerome Hotel.
E-Dog, going back to those childhood experiences, though, I don't know if this is one. I just remember we talked about this many, many years ago.
hmm.
Wasn't there also an experience or a time when there was a really weird guy at the door again that was like wanting wanting you guys to open the door and saying like, I know you guys are in there or something like that? Or was that more of a joke story that you made up?
Yeah, you used to do that a lot too.
Yeah.
I don't remember that one.
Okay. I might be having a false memory.
Yeah, I don't remember that one. That would be kind of a lot different.
A little bit creepy weepy.
Yeah.
There, there was a story of when my family went to Rocky Point and someone was knocking on the windows, doing something like that. Because we all used to sleep in like the same room, all my cousins and all that stuff. And but we're pretty sure that was one of our uncles.
Just
My
messing
uncle,
with you guys.
yeah, I don't think that one was debunked. It's just what he doesn't
Okay.
admit it, but I mean,
Of
gut
course
tells me
not.
that it was him.
See, it's an uncle thing to do.
Yeah.
Not
Now
you're
the
weak
only
if you
other
fess up
one
to that.
the only other one I have is of the jogging guy at 3 in the morning, but that one's just me. So there's no corroboration there. It's me going to do the irrigation at like 3 in the morning, and there's some dude standing behind my fence at the back of my house just waiting for me. And then as I get closer, the dude like walks down the trail and just sort of disappears. Like there's no way that he could have gotten away far enough to where I wouldn't have seen him once I get to the fence to like just be able to look to the left down the road and then see him. He just kind of disappeared.
What the hell?
Yeah. Yeah, because I used to have to do the irrigation, like let the water into the backyard because the backyard's too big for like sprinklers or anything like that. But I always had to go like super late at night. So I was like walking from my house to the back fence. It's just a chain link fence. And like as I was walking over there, there's just like a dude standing there in like a grayish or whitish like hoodie, has the hoodie over his head, and he's got like black track pants with like the white stripe, like the Gopnik jogger pants. And he just started like standing there just watching me as I walk, and I'm kind of like half asleep, so I don't really think about it that much. But as I get closer, I'm kind of like, that's kind of weird. Like, why is there a dude hanging out by my house? And then as I get
Man.
closer, like the dude just kind of turns, and I don't know if it's actually a dude. I just kind of feel like it was a dude, and just starts walking down the dirt path. But behind my house, it's just a dirt path, and then there's like a crappy little street light at the end. So like, from when he turned and walked, and to when I get to the back fence to look down that street, I should have been able to see that dude like in the light walking down there.
Mm-hmm.
But it was, nothing. So that's another little creepy moment of mine out in Phoenix. but that one was just me, so no real proof, I guess.
Dang.
But I don't know, there's got to be something to it. I don't know. There's too many people with stories like that for it to be nothing, to just be
Hmm.
like, oh, a little coincidence.
Exactly, kind of like what I said about aliens. Either we've had this general concept of what they look like for
Hmm.
so long, there has to be some truth to how that stereotype of a little green man with the big eyes came about. There has to be some real source that came from. And I think it's the same thing with what you're talking about there with these shared experiences that people have. There has to be some explanation.
How would you think about it though? Like, would you relate ghosts to like religious belief in some way? What would ghosts be? Could it be related to like the parallel universe type thing, where they're just something
It
that
could
doesn't
be,
belong
yeah.
here?
It exactly, yeah. It could just be the previous conversation from the last episode. That was us kind of talking about parallel existence, parallel universes. Maybe other worlds just existing in the same space and time but at a different frequency. It could just be visions of people in another existence
Hmm.
that are kind of like showing through,
Hmm.
and then people in this world come up with, the concept of ghosts and all of that as a way to explain it. But it could just be um, sticking with the thing from the previous episode, just inconsistencies in vibration or frequency that allows for these visions from an alternate existence, parallel universe, parallel reality, whatever you'd like to call it.
Maybe just a cool little story that I think maybe it's just a fun idea. But thinking of that thing where like sort of you live a life and then you die and then you continue the other one. Maybe it's not that it's just one person living a life. Maybe it is multiple people dying and going on. Maybe ghosts are folks that kind of don't want to start that new one, kind of
Mm-hmm.
don't want to leave behind this one that they've spent their whole life in, and they kind of want to hang around. They some strong attachment, and that's what ghosts are. People that haven't yet restarted the cycle.
Yeah, and that's the basic mythology of ghosts. Most people say that a ghost is like a spirit that has like unfinished business or won't leave this plane of existence because they have something else to take care of. So that kind of fits into the mythos of, ghosts in general.
Hmm. Yeah, it'd be like the Grudge or something. People
Hmm.
that die in like some like negative way. Strong emotions are what lead to ghosts, I guess. Like
Well, that's
anger.
And
the
oh no, go ahead, Jones.
I was gonna say that's kind of the working theory in Japan, right, with suicides that
Yeah.
someone's spirit is immediately tied to the area where they died.
Yeah,
So,
you'll still get discounts on apartments because people don't want to live in apartments where people have died or committed suicide or something like that.
What?
Because there is that weird connection with it could be haunted or something. There's bad
yeah,
Wow.
vibes.
I remember when I was in Tokyo, and I sucks you didn't get to see this, E-Dog, but we
Hmm.
took that ghost tour
Yeah.
and we went to go see the graveside of the 47 Ronin and like the the big shots that were kind of left in the end that had to just end up killing themselves. That area is just gated off.
Hmm.
Partly because, it's all historical and whatnot, but like you can't really like look into it. You could peek through the gate and all that, but
Hmm.
the reason they have it closed off is because of the suicides that happened there, so they don't want that negative energy, sort of going out to other people. It's more of a
Yeah.
it's more of a thing of like we have to let them be their own people like in this space because they are physically tied there forever and ever now.
Wow.
Well, hell, there's that creepy video I had from the temple, remember?
That one is very strange.
Yeah, the back of the person's head.
Yeah, you could see like their ear and they're just standing there.
Yeah, that one actually like gives me goosebumps thinking about that.
And you were the only person there.
Yeah, just me. There was an old lady in the temple entrance, but she was in her little room. It's not that lady. If there was someone next to me, I would have seen him, basically.
Man.
And then the only evidence I ever found of that was the Google review where the guy's like, I don't go there ever since there was a suicide in the bathroom, the temple bathrooms.
So for anyone that hasn't heard this before, do you want to explain what happened?
Oh yeah, I was making just a random YouTube video for my eDog in Japan channel. It was supposed to be just like a cinematic video of the temple, but as I was going through like all the clips and stuff and putting stuff together, like I noticed one clip that just sort of it's just me panning to look at the different things, but there's like the shape. You could like make out the guy's like it's like a side profile, I think, where the guy's hair and you could see his ear, and it's just sort of just for like an instant you pass by. I wish I still had the video to like add it to this, but has Richard seen it or
I have, yeah, I saw it
yeah,
on YouTube.
yeah. So it's just a really
It's
quick little thing.
it's
But
still up on there, right?
yeah, you can probably
Okay,
find it. I
cool.
think
So
it's called
maybe you
Ghost
could just
Video.
yeah, drop a link to it in the description of this episode or something. People want
Yeah.
to scope it out.
So that one, I guess there's 3 examples of weird stuff that have happened to me. But unexplained. But yeah, it's just too weird to be nothing.
I'd like to think there's some sort of coincidence to all of this.
Yeah, I wish we had like. I wish there wasn't so much like fake video out there of like ghost hunters on the Travel Channel type stuff. Like, oh, did you hear that thump?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's just an oversaturation of that sort of stuff, and it's mostly like entertainment at that point. There's no, there's the legitimacy of it gets lost with
Do
so
you
much other
do you
corny
know of any
stuff
like
coming
good
out.
just stories of ghosts? Not really things that have happened to you, but like anything that stands out to you, like your favorite ghost story.
Do you mean like secondhand accounts, like ones that we've heard from family members and friends, or things like that? What exactly do you mean?
Yeah, that could be a good one. Or even like just little folklore tales you've heard.
Oh, okay, just in general
Yeah.
stories. Okay.
Do you have any, Richard? Because I'm trying to find one that I had.
Yeah, but I don't know if it's any that I would care to share.
Hmm.
A lot of my family on my mom's side of the family believe in ghosts, and they're constantly talking about ghosts in their house, and they're always hearing their mom talking to them, and their mom who has passed away. Just like all of these stories, but I just don't believe in ghosts, and I don't really buy into that, which is kind of funny considering I've written like my first little book that I wrote was a ghost story. But one story that does kind of stand out, and it is not ghosts. It is my godmother, Anne. I believe she was in a car accident when she was much younger. And she said that she saw like a guardian that came to her and told her that she was going to be okay. She said like this this thing came down to her, almost like the idea of a guardian angel or something,
Yeah.
and told her, you were just in an accident and you're going to be all right, but some people are going to take you right now. And you're going to you're probably going to wake up later on, but you're going to be fine, so don't worry about it. And to this day, she claims that that's what it was. It was like this visitation from this other thing or this guardian. And my mom says so also, like she believes her. Um, but the skeptic in me doesn't really believe that. I think that maybe it was like a paramedic. I think that it was an EMT or someone who showed up at the scene and told her, and that just in her shock, delirium, and everything from the car accident, I imagine that she just I don't know,
Just her memory of it.
Yeah, exactly. I think it was probably just like an EMT or someone talking to her, which is the easiest way to explain it. Just them saying, hey, you were in an accident. We're going to throw you in the back of the ambulance. You're going to be all right. So that one's very easily explainable, or at least to me it is, even though she will go to her grave saying it was something else. But that's one that comes to mind immediately. But like my great grandma talking to my Aunt Norma and stuff like that, like I just don't buy it. I don't believe in any of that.
Like, what the hell do you call those people that talk to ghosts?
Mediums.
Mediums, yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't believe in mediums either. I'd probably just scam artists or something. Master cold readers.
There's
Wait, hold on a second before you launch into this. Have you guys both seen Dinner for Schmucks?
Yeah.
Remember Octavia Spencer's character, the medium who can only communicate with dead pets?
Yeah.
That's what I always think of with that stuff. Anyway, sorry, Jones, go ahead.
Well, just on the topic of mediums, there's also some interesting stuff to look into on YouTube if you want to fall into this rabbit hole. But James Randi, have you heard of him?
Mm-mm.
No.
Oh man, he's this old guy. He's a magician, but he's also just a big skeptic. And part of his career is, well, a big part of what he did was expose people who claim to have psychic abilities and mediums and stuff. It's just really entertaining to see that. Just a lot of people like that get shut down because they are just scammers and they exploit people's feelings for money, and like those sorts of talk shows where someone's standing in front of an audience and they'll say like I'm getting a name, I think it's John or James or Jim, and someone's like, oh yes, my son Jim, and yeah, like that sort of stuff. He just exposes those type of people, but that's great to look up. It's James. His name's James Randi, Randi.
Okay.
Good stuff to look into. But
weren't you looking up a story?
I was trying to find it and I couldn't. But I was gonna say that the unexplainable stuff really for me, the stuff that kind of gets me really, that when I read it is more of like when people hear noises in their houses, like, because this goes into like it could be like a legitimate threat, right? Like if someone, for example, a story of like someone, I came home from work, I live alone, and I had to go down to my basement, and suddenly I heard like my backyard sliding door open, and I go up and like no one's there, right? Things like that. Like that's just scary as hell for me because that's like kind of getting more into like the home invasion sort of side of things, but also like it's really interesting to read people's experiences and their accounts on how they've handled things at home like that when they just suddenly like feel or hear or see the presence of someone else inside of their house, especially when they were supposed to be alone.
Well, remember the whole, I guess this is a different thing, but just how experienced in stuff kind of makes you, I don't know if it's more aware or overreact, but for a little while we thought that the ghost from the temple started following me around because I started like seeing stuff here. And I think one of the funny ones is I think Rena was like hassle each other a lot, and I thought Rena was in like the sink shower laundry room area, and I was going in there to hassle her, but like the door has like a little opening at the bottom, and I could see like the shadow of like someone standing behind it. So I was thinking like, ah, oh, she thinks she's gonna trick me. She thinks I can't see her, so I'm gonna play one on her. But then I opened the door and there was nobody there. It turned out she was taking a shower. So there was just like those mysterious shadow legs that were in front of the door. When I thought it was her, it turned out to be nothing, which was an interesting time for it to happen after the temple incident. And then I also had the old lady, which I think is just a night terror. I don't think it's related to the temple thing. But the old woman that appeared above me while I was sleeping, and that was like holding my face against the pillow. That was
What?
Yeah, explain that one.
Yeah, that was pretty scary. But again, I think that one was like a night terror thing, maybe not ghostly.
Just a
But
nightmare or something.
but I woke up. I remember it was like early morning, because the sunlight was already coming through the window. But I woke up to this like old, dead looking, like corpsey lady, like an old woman in like a white nightgown, like with those little frilly patterns with like the little rose, the typical thing you'd see,
Mm-hmm.
but just dirty, like stained and yellow and old. And her lips were broken and cracked, just pale and nasty. Her hair was full of like leaves and crap. But she was basically like just staring at me with like eyes that have no pupils, really. It was just like a white like film over it. But she was just like staring at me and like holding my head down, and I could feel like the pressure against my face, not being able to move, and just like kind of staring at me until like I kind of just closed my eyes and then like sort of passed out. But she was just sort of floating like above me, like just legs down that way, and I was just down, just was it parallel with me basically. And that was those were pretty creepy. Also happened within a few days of the temple incident.
Oh, that's freaky. Unless it was
Yeah.
just on your mind a lot, you know, and it made you
Yeah,
have
that's why
these
I'm saying I think
nightmares.
like because it was freaking me out. I couldn't sleep, and then it turned out some old person died in the, the apartment across the street because there was paramedics there, and the monks came and they were purifying the place. So it was a lot of weird stuff that happened in a short amount of time.
You know, this has actually brought back a memory. When I was living in the apartment by ASU, I don't know if I've told you guys about this, but I was like, I was just taking a nap like midday, and what happened was I kind of just I had my hands sort of together, like maybe just on top of each other, but I was laying sideways and my hands were kind of just hanging off the frame of the bed. That's just kind of like the weird position I fell asleep in.
Hmm.
And I heard my name called once. And then I heard my name one more time, maybe after 3 seconds. And I swear to you, this is so weird that it's all coming back, but I felt like these really cold, clammy hands, just like, there's my hands right here. I just felt them like grasp my hands like that really quickly, and
Ugh.
it just like shook me awake. And I didn't know what happened, but I felt, again, if I want to explain it, maybe I was just in a weird half asleep state, half awake. but I do remember my name clearly being called by a lady, and it was twice, and then I felt the hands, and then I woke up.
I've had that before too, and I have it in a similar state also. If I'm like half, I don't know, it's like I'm half awake, half asleep, or it's like when I just barely fall asleep. It's when I just barely like slip out of consciousness and I fall asleep, and then I'll hear like my mom yell my name, and then I'll just snap up like awake, and it sounds like she's in the house and she was just calling me, and of course there's nobody here. But I've had the same thing, like a person calling my name, but I can tell it's my mom's voice.
I've had that before too. Yeah. Just hear my voice being called from another dimension, perhaps.
Maybe it's CB Walker.
No, I feel like if there are spirits, then there would have to be spirits that aren't too happy. They had some negative event happen to them. That would, I don't know.
I don't know. I don't think soul and spirit are the same thing. Again, I just don't subscribe to the whole concept of spirits and ghosts and these things that like still occupy this plane of existence but aren't a physical person anymore. I just don't.
Then what is a spirit to you?
I mean, to me, like I use the word spirit differently. Like I don't think a spirit is like a ghost thing. To me, like when I use the word spirit, I'm talking about like a mentality. Like if someone is in good spirits, or like if you're a shitty person and you're just like really petty and you're mean to other people and you are mean spirited. But I don't think like spirits and ghosts are like among us. But I do believe in like souls, and I think your soul is you as a person. It is the essence of you, and that's a whole other concept, but I just don't think that there are these
So then could a soul be? Could a soul hang around?
No, I don't believe in anything that like manifests and sits around and thinks that it has to resolve something. Like I think a soul is completely intangible. Like soul is the same thing as love and fear, and it's not it has no physical form. It's not going to be like a ghostly form. It's not this foggy thing. It's completely intangible.
Jones agrees.
I do.
What are you searching up, Jones?
He's looking up CB Walker. He's trying to find those psychic. Next caller.
CB Walker is great.
That's always getting pranked.
Yeah.
Were you gonna say something, Jones?
No. I was really trying to find more of those stories, but I'm gonna give up on that.
We should do a podcast which is just about like cool stories, like folklore stories, just interesting stuff. Dive into the meanings of stuff, origins and stuff like that. Would be cool. But hopefully after all these spooky stories, everyone can sleep tonight.
Oh, gosh.
Because I think that's going to do it for the 5th episode of this podcast.
There you go. Thanks for joining. Thanks for joining us.
Hope you got spooked.
Yeah.